I'm here today with Samy of Lost Society to talk about If the Sky Came Down. The new record comes out September 30th on Nuclear Blast. How are you doing today?
Honestly, I'm doing fantastic, thank you. I'm here actually amidst the chaos of our rehearsal place. We're packing all of our gear because in a couple of days we're going to be embarking on our first European tour in, honestly, I don't even remember how many years. So I'm doing actually pretty good right now.
So let me ask you this. If the sky came down, did the sky ever came down on you or on the band?
Unfortunately, yes, and that's what the whole record is about, actually, because as anyone probably who has heard the record or who will hear the record and see the lyrics and read the lyrics, you'll notice that it's a very personal record, and basically the whole record is about the last 1.5 years of my life. The Sky Came Down is just it's exactly about what happened to me during those very difficult times of my life that I never thought I would have found myself in.
Is it difficult for you to record a record this personal, or does that work a little bit as therapy for you?
Well, you know what? It's definitely one of those things that after the record was actually finished, I kind of thought about it in hindsight that it honestly could have been a super difficult thing because I'm touching on very, very kind of sensitive and traumatic subjects and things that I've kind of like kept to myself, even from my close friends and family. So it could have been a super difficult thing to do. But honestly, I feel like as a musician, when you kind of reach that point in your life and with your crafts that you're able to 100% kind of just pour out your soul into your art form. I think that's kind of like the ultimate form of being an artist or a musician. So I feel like I've been practicing for the last 12 years with having music as my outlet, that I poured all of my, my positive thoughts, my negative thoughts and everything. So I feel like now when I was in a situation where I literally found myself deciding that this record and writing and recording this record will be the last thing that I do with my life, I feel like I was so ready to just kind of 100% give everything out from myself and give it to the world to see. So honestly, I'm very grateful for the fact that it didn't become an issue. It didn't become something that I was consciously thinking, oh, is this too much? Or is this, is this too much information or whatever? It just all came out of me. And, because in the end of the day, all of that went for saving my life, because this record and the process of it was such therapy, as you just said also.
So how does it feel now that the record is finished and you have a chance to look back, listen to it, and you're going to have to play some of these songs live? It's not like you're going to get away from it. How does that feel? Because you almost get to relive those moments again and again and again and again.
Well, you know what? I felt since the record has been finished, and obviously, we've already been debuting a lot of these songs during festival season this summer. I've been so grateful that I've seen it like from a totally different standpoint. It's, for me, it's been like the whole process is like, first you feel an emotion, then you transfer it and you translate it into music, then you record it, then you release it. But when you finally get to scream it and sing it with all of these people, I feel like that's the kind of the cathartic feeling of that song. It's like you're literally saying goodbye to a certain feeling in your life and you're on top of it for the first time. It's like, for me, I'm still here, and that's literally like, that's the most important thing, because at the time of writing this, I wouldn't have seen this thing happening at any point anymore. So being here, I feel like I'm already on top of everything that I'm singing about, but finally getting to do it with everyone, it's like we're singing these songs together, we're singing these words together, and saying like a big fuck you to all of those feelings. So honestly, I feel like it's a beautiful thing that we get to do that we get to sing these songs every night.
The album, it definitely comes across as the most personal record you guys have ever released. I don't think you can walk away from that, and I don't think anybody listening to it will feel any different. And I see the album perhaps as a little bit of a ladder for you that allow you to climb out of a dark hole that you were in. But has it given you a chance to also maybe think about how you got into that dark hole to begin with?
Oh, dude, absolutely. And because like, there's been a lot of people obviously who have asked me also, like, ever since 112 came out, because obviously I'm like kind of laying out all of my issues for the world to see. And then I'm also telling people how it's 100% okay and it's a very necessary thing to seek help. And I feel like it's a good thing also in all of my interviews to tell everyone that one of the main things also that has helped me into this whole position that I'm in right now, obviously the record is one of them, but the other thing is that I've been seeing a therapist for the last 6 months, going every single week to kind of clear out all of these things. So yes, definitely there's been so many things. Like, it's like, when I'm 27 right now, and for the first 26 years of my life, it was like I was just pushing so many things aside. It was like, nah, I'm gonna deal with these one day. It's like this will not hurt me right now because I can still function even though I know that these problems are here. But once you reach that point when all of it kind of collapses on top of you, because that 26 years of problems, it's not like they're all disappearing. It's just that you're putting a little plaster on them. And at some point, once you've tried to put a plaster over an ocean, it's like at some point that's all going to backfire. And that's what happened to me, and that's what this record is about. So yeah, it's definitely like I seeked help, and that was one of the things that kept me alive also.
Well, when you look at this album now from a more musical standpoint, is there any element on this record that you feel like stands out and also allows this album to have maybe a little bit of its own unique nature to it?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm so happy and I'm so excited about a lot of the things that we got to try out on this record because, like, as a disclaimer, what I say to everyone is like all of the elements that you hear on this record, all of the new elements and obviously the old ones, they're things that we've always loved to do. It's like things that we love to listen to, but they've never fit like the frame of what we've done in the past. But now we feel like we're finally at a stage in our lives and in our careers and with our art form that the songs kind of allowed us to try out these things, and they worked with so many of the songs. And like to name a few, I mean, I love the fact that we have a lot of the kind of electronic vibes going on. We have a lot of the kind of Prodigy or Nine Inch Nails-esque things that we got to try out because we all love those things, and they finally kind of fit the form of what we were doing. Another thing is like having so many songs that at the same time they can be massive songs, but they're very stripped from what we would usually do. It's like you don't have that traditional wall of guitars with everything. It's not like you have 100 guitars, 100 layers of drums, 100 layers of vocals. It's like we have very simplistic things, but the songs and the melodies, they make it stand out because they're so strong within themselves. So those are some of the things, just to name a few.
One of the interesting thing about this record is that it doesn't matter how much you guys change the sound or how much you morph or how much you grow within the sound from the first record to this one. The intensity and aggression is always the same. It's always at a very high level. Is that part of your own nature? So it doesn't matter. I mean, you could write a blues record and it would still be the most intensive and aggressive blues record ever.
Dude, exactly. And I mean that's what this whole band is about, and that's what the whole kind of evolution of Lost Society has been all about. Because I feel like even now when we have songs again that introduce so many new things, obviously, don't get me wrong, there's always going to be people who don't like it, which is 100% okay with me. But I feel like our real fans and a lot of other people, they always sense that the band is still there. And because what we do comes so natural to us, it's not like every time we write a song or every time we write a new record, we're like, okay, this is cool again, so let's do something like that, or let's do more of that because that's kind of having a resurgence right now. It's all things that we love to listen to, but it's just all being about the evolution of the band and when we're actually ready to introduce those things into our own music. So that's why you're 100% correct. It's like, even if, we don't have songs that have 100% thrash vibes, you're never going to be able to take those things away from us because that's our childhood, that's what we've always listened to, and it's what we still listen to. But we've just our musical horizons have just broadened so much within these years. It's like I can listen to Exodus, but I'll listen to some Lady Gaga right after that, and that's fucking okay. But it's all about how you transfer it and how you translate it into your own music. And that's why I think, even though you have a record with 10 songs that are like, obviously they are very different from what we've done with our first record, but they still 100% sound like the band because you can't take an influence away from someone. It's like, even if you don't actively do something that you've done in the past, it's not like you can forget that thing completely. You know what I mean?
Mhm. And when it comes to making this album, outside of your own personal demons and your own personal challenges, was this an overall record that maybe was a little bit extra challenging to put together due to the growth of the band, due to the changes in sound?
Well, honestly, like I think the funny thing is that it was actually probably a bit easier than actually doing the previous record, which I feel is greatly because of the fact that we had the 4 years before we did No Absolution, before we released it, and I feel like in that time we grew so much as songwriters, and just like we kind of figured out what it is we want to say to the world. So I feel like this time around, especially with the whole pandemic that kind of fucked over our whole touring plans for No Absolution, we had so much time. We literally had so much time to practice, to write music, and to arrange music. So I feel like everything actually started going so kind of naturally, and it was a very kind of fluid experience in the end of the day. And when we finished the album, when we were in the studio during the last days, we were like, wow, we fucking did that already. It's like, that's cool, because it also gives us a lot of reassurance that we're definitely doing the right thing right now, and we're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
You mentioned the multi layers, that you guys try not to do that, like 100 layers of guitars, 100 layers of vocals, 100 layers of drums. And I feel like this album was not as guitar dependent as some of the previous records, but that doesn't mean that the sound is still not going to be thick. So what was your game plan as far as what you wanted out of the guitars, if you're not going to go with that wall of guitar sound?
Well, you know what? The thing that we had, ever since we like kind of booked the studio dates, we had a great conversation with our producer and co-writer and sound engineer Jonas Parkkonen, because I feel like all of us kind of had that idea before we actually entered the studio, that we're going to be doing what most of everyone does nowadays. So you'd have the kind of heavily sampled drums, you'll have those specific guitar tones that a lot of people have that we know how to do. But we had this conversation with Jonas, and he was like, you know what? Let's do something completely different, because more or less for the last 5 years, maybe even 10 years, there's been that very kind of I'd like to say maybe Americanized sound that you've had within metal and modern metal, especially. And what we wanted to do, and what Jonas kind of sold on us, was the fact that we'd try to make an album that sounds like the band is actually there, that everyone was playing this record together in one room, which means that you'll have very natural sounding drums, but obviously they'll be huge. You'll have just two guitars, you're not doubling everything. You'll just double some things to make it a bit thicker in some places, but literally you'll have just two guitar tracks. You'll have a bass that's fucking growling the whole time, and you'll have vocals that aren't, super tuned. They're not, 100 things on top of each other. It's like you rely on one really good lead track. And that being said, obviously it was very important to us that even though we do that, even though we go shift towards a more kind of early 2000s sort of sound, it obviously has to live up to everything else that's on the Spotify playlists. You have to be able to kind of be around all of those other bands and all those other songs that will sound like the more modern thing that your ear is kind of used to right now. But honestly, doing that was a very kind of bold move, in my opinion, because it's very easy to fuck that up. But I think with Jonas doing what he did, he made it sound massive. And I think it's really cool, because I feel like a lot of comments that we've even got now with these 3 singles out, there's been a lot of people from around the world who have said that they're super grateful and they're super happy that bands are slowly but surely kind of bringing that more natural vibe back to the audio sound also. And I'm super excited about that.
What about your vocals? What kind of opportunities did this record give you vocally for you to kind of maybe experiment a little bit?
Well, honestly, there was so much space to try new things. There was a lot of things, because like my style of how I write music is obviously that I write the lyrics, and I'll write the melodies without actually testing them first. So then when we're doing demos with Jonas, for the first time, and I actually get to sing them for the first time, then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to practice this a lot, because there's higher things, there's more intricate things, obviously. And if you just pure and simple compare my vocal tone to what I had on No Absolution, obviously it's not as thick as it was with No Absolution. It's a bit thinner but more powerful. So you go from a more kind of a more like death metal approach of clean singing to a more Chester Bennington kind of vibe with the cleans. And honestly, it's, I mean, as far as what it goes with vocals for me, it's every time we do a record, we're pushing our guitar work so much onto like a whole new level every time. We're pushing our drumming onto a next level. We're pushing the bass playing onto a new level. So I always feel like I have a lot to show people, and it's a lot of that I just want to show people, that we want to take every single element of this band always to the next level. And I practiced more than I ever did, and I also experimented a lot with just different melodies and kind of different styles of melodies that I wouldn't necessarily do ever before.
I have to tell you this. I really enjoy the fact that you didn't take a one size fits all approach from beginning to end, because the record is really not a one size fits all approach. So I like the fact that you kind of went with the mood of where the song really require you to go with. It's not always an easy thing to do, because sometimes it's easier to be in the pocket and feel comfortable. And I felt like the album maybe took you a little bit out of your comfort zone here and there, but it was really well done vocally throughout. And the other element that I really enjoyed was the design of the record. I thought you guys created an album that has a perfect design, considering the songs that you had at your disposal to create it. And then you could not end the record on a better track than Suffocating. I mean, this song is outstanding. To me, it's my favorite song on the record. I don't think you could put it anywhere else but the end, because the album has such a bulldozing effect that you don't want to pause it. You just kind of want to experience that wave, and then just at the end, then okay, now hit me with Suffocating. Brilliant song. How was that song born?
First of all, thank you so much. And I'm so happy that the whole kind of storyline comes through, the whole dynamic storyline of the record, because that was very important to us when we were putting this thing together. It's like, I feel like every single song and the track list that it has on the record was kind of like the dynamic ups and downs of what I was going through during those times. And for me also, from the beginning, I knew two things on the record: that 112 is going to be the opener and Suffocating is going to be the last track. And it was actually a bit even easier for me to decide that Suffocating is going to be the last track, because in all of its kind of symbolic meaning, also that was that was meant to be the last song that I ever write. And for me, that was something so kind of, it really took me off guard, and it was like, okay, this is the only way we can end this record. And I feel like I like the whole concept of it also, because you have this metal band, and it's our fifth record. You have a lot of kind of fast-paced stuff on this record. You have a lot of heavy stuff, heavier than we've ever done before. And I feel like I love the fact that the last track on the record, the last thing that you'll hear, is just the most vulnerable kind of it's impossible to say ballad. It's not a ballad, but it's just a person pouring out everything to the listener. And it's like, you're so naked out there. It's like, you don't have the double bass pedals to hide behind. You don't have the distorted guitars to hide behind. It's just a piano, and it's just a person, a broken fucking person, telling their story. And for me, it's like, obviously it's the most important track to me personally, and it is my favorite track of the record, like by a long shot.
I've pre-recorded my review. I called it a ballad, so don't get mad at me, but I called it.
That's okay, man. It's okay. I mean, but it's a funny thing, because we discussed this a lot of times with Johannes. Also, it's like, we were also kind of not debating, but we were pondering what we call it, because it's like, it is technically a ballad, but it is kind of like, it's just a, it's like what you'd call, it's what you'd call Hurt by Nine Inch Nails. It's like, it's the same thing. It's just that it's a fucking devastating song.
Yeah, it is. It is. It cuts deep, even for the person who's listening. Was that the most challenging track on the record for you?
To me, honestly, that was the easiest song to be created and to be recorded. It's crazy, but that's the way it is, because I feel like, especially when I was in that vocal booth, it was just like for all the other songs, it was just me in the vocal booth and Johannes recording. But for that song, it was just like, the second we started recording it, we were just quiet. It was like we were quiet for the whole day, because we both appreciated the situation. We both understood what this song means. And it was like, we just pressed record, and it was a couple of takes, of doing the verses. And then it was like, okay, now you got to get into a certain kind of mood. And then it was doing the choruses, and that's it. It was like, because you're singing something that so well. And especially when I was in the studio, I was still amidst all of that that all of those emotions that were happening. I was amidst all of those things that were happening at the time. So for me, it was the easiest song to get through onto that record.
You've mentioned a little bit about the evolution of the band across 5 records. You know, I'm sure you're not blind to what people say on social media. There's always positive, there's always negative. Do you feel sometimes that your vision for the band, or the band's vision itself, is a little bit misunderstood?
I think the only thing that's maybe misunderstood is the fact that people will be kind of very quick to judge a record based on something. It's like I feel like a lot of people will listen to one of our new songs and they'll judge it based on what we did 10 years ago, but not on their honest opinion. Because, you know, to me, I 100% appreciate if someone doesn't like something. It's like, it's so okay with me, but I'm not a fan of someone having so many kind of like ideas that they have before they've actually heard the song, and they're going to kind of build themselves up to hate it before they've actually even given it a shot or given it a chance in any way. But I feel like, you know, all the things that you hear on a Lost Society record are always what we listen to. It's what we love to do, what we love to listen to, and what we've observed in, you know, in our short time that we've lived on this planet. So I feel like there's nothing fake about what we do, but people very quickly will obviously be like, oh, okay, so now you're just doing that because that's cool again, or now you're doing that because you're trying to appeal to a larger audience or something. But I feel like everything we've ever done is just what we are. It's like, you know, when we've written a thrash record, we've been listening to a lot of thrash during that time. But I think it would be super naive for anyone to think that we'd do exactly the same thing that we did 10 years ago. Because I feel like a human evolves, a human grows. And if someone, you know, it's fully okay if you want to do the same thing over and over and over again. But I feel like if you'd say to someone that, oh, okay, I guess you're the same person that you were 10 years ago or 20 years ago, that's bullshit, because people change and people have to change also. And I feel like if we were still stuck in that one box and we were writing a record that's just kind of there to please a certain group of our fans, that's selling out. That's selling out to me. But writing a record that purely represents who we are, that's just Lost Society.
I agree. I think you have to judge a record on its own merit, not on what the first album sounded like or the last album sounded like. Just judge it on that merit, on that record itself. Now you can argue that you like it or you don't like it. That's a different story. But not liking it because it doesn't sound like album number 2, it seems a little bit defeatist.
Exactly.
I don't get it. Last question for you. I know Alexi was a huge friend of yours. You guys were super close. How impactful to you and to the spiral that you went into was losing someone like him?
That was well, I mean, it's kind of now, especially when I've gone through the events of what happened, basically, that you could say that that was definitely kind of the first thing to start the whole effect. And I was definitely in a very weird place after that happened, because I found myself kind of really locked. It's like when something so difficult and traumatic happens, you know, it's like you don't know what to do, so you just lock up fully, and then that kind of builds to everything that's been building for so many years, and then suddenly it all just falls apart at once.
Well, thank you for being honest with your music, with your thoughts, with your words. It's always a pleasure having you on the channel. It's always a pleasure talking to you. It's been a long time since we've seen each other. I hope you guys come to North America soon. Now that the doors are open, get on that tour bus, get on that plane, and play some shows in North America.
Dude, I cannot wait. I honestly cannot wait. And because it's been too long. I was just thinking about it today. It's been 5 years since we've been to North America. So, you know, it is definitely time. And what I've said to, you know, our managers and our agents and everyone, I've just said, please, next year, just keep us on the road as much as possible, because I've seen the inside of my house and it ain't fucking pretty.
Yeah, now it's like to see the inside of a bus.
Exactly.
You need to change the eyesight there. All right, Samy, thank you so
Absolutely.
much for your time. All the best with the release. Take care of yourself, and that's the most important thing, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, man. All the best to you. I'll see you soon, I hope.
Take care.
Cheers, man. Bye-bye.